Today we're in my factory in China and I'm going to show you how the world's biggest brands create their products. This is just like a small part of where we hold the fabric. We have enough fabric to produce about 1 million pieces at any single time. We've got our scissors. We're going to open up a random box. I love doing this because the team freak out. Don't say anything, just watch.
People have bad ideas about like the working conditions or how staff is managed in factories within China, and maybe some of those ideas that people have that are generally wrong that we could go into a little bit.
Our factory, we have around 300 workers. They live nearby their home. They come every day in the morning by electric bike. They have lunch in the factory free. And back to dinner at home. The life is good for them.
They have the flexibility, right? They can choose.
Yeah. They choose what they want, actually, most of the time.
This is 20 years of hard work in here.
Where we are now, this is like a business park for factories. So if you look around, you see it's interesting, like China's getting more and more efficient and factories are operating differently to what they used to. So instead of needing thousands of staff and huge teams of admin, a lot of automation they're starting to bring into the process, and it allows them to operate on a micro level but still keep output really, really high. So it's interesting. We'll show you around. So I'm about to show you what happens inside of our factory. This is where we're storing all of our fabric. We're holding a huge amount of fabric that our customers can choose from to make it really streamlined and I guess consistent. So when you get a sample and you get production, it's exactly what you've ordered. All of this you can see for yourself. There's our beautiful fleece. Some panels for customers will pre-decorate. And then what's also interesting is that for this particular customer here, this is a big retail customer in South America, we'll hold the fabric and then as they reorder, we can always just sew it together. So it's been cut, decorated, also meaning that you don't have to hold so much inventory. It's just really easy to replenish consistently without holding on to too much cost on inventory. And you can see for yourself the colors are really nice. There's fleece, there's jersey. This is just like a small part of where we hold the fabric. We have enough fabric to produce about 1 million pieces at any single time. And then once we get an order come through, or we're going to do a new run of our own blanks, then things move into this station, which is all your cutting. This is where they're laying down the fabric for the cutting and preparing it for the next step. This particular fabric is our core fabric for the ThreadLab blank range. So they'll be running out sheets and sheets and sheets, cutting it, getting the layers prepared so that it can then go to the template for the next step. And then once that's done, you can see over there, each of those templates are categorized really, really clearly so that they then can go through the automated sewing line. What you see here is all of the templates. So they'll print that out on a flat lay, and then it's up to the team to cut that and then assign it in batches where we then bring it together for the sewing component.
So this is a good example of a torso panel once it's been cut. And you can see what happens is the team will cut up, usually batches of a few hundred at a time, and they'll take piece by piece and they'll add it into the automated line. So each piece flies along the factory to go to the operator, so there is no need for a back and forth. They can just consistently focus on doing the same thing 5,000 times a day.
So this is one part of the quality control process, and you can see when the fabric is knitted, they use this machine to check if there's any holes in the process. So we can, again, just another measure to reduce that defect rate. Really interesting way to do it too.
We, a couple months ago, had 300,000 pieces land in our Miami warehouse, and we're almost already out of stock. So this is a replenishment. You're going to see, obviously, the first step here, and then you're going to see on the sewing line us smashing out those blanks to get those containers filled for the US. This is as raw as you can get. I guess it can't be any more exposed than this. So.
Back in like 2016 when I started this business with my last $5,000 to put into an embroidery machine, buying blanks from a local supplier. If you were to tell me we were here, less than 10 years later in our own factory, cutting up hundreds of thousands of pieces to distribute around the world, I would tell you that you're a fucking idiot. But it's so cool that we can put so much hard work and see something on the other end of it. And it's not always like that. It's not linear. It's a lot of hard work. There's no mistake about it. It's such a good feeling to just walk through here and just see so much happening, create so much value in the process. It's amazing. We've gone through the cutting section. Now we're going to go to the sew. This is where you're going to see those automated lines and a bit of a mix. So you'll see your traditional sewing method, the old school way, I guess, and then you're going to see the automated, and the interesting contrast between the two. Automated is only for the real big volumes, 10,000 plus. Anything less than that, we take into the manual process. When I first came here, this wasn't a thing, and now it's so crazy to see all the way down the line. To fill the space with automatic lines is just phenomenal, but that really just allows you to be as efficient as possible. There's no need to go back and forth between different patches of the design. The operator stays in one spot, allowing them just to focus on a single component of the construction, then taking it to the next station and so on until you get to a finished product. Smarter factories now focus on implementing automation in the process, and that's what we've done. So everyone's held accountable when it comes to productivity, and you'll see at the end, we track the efficiency of each operator so that the production manager can then understand exactly where everything's sitting. So this is a really important part of the production. This is post-production, and this is where we check piece by piece to make sure that the quality standards meet exact strict tolerances that we set. So you can see they lay out the finished garments, and then what our technicians are doing is they're checking for loose threads, they're checking for any holes, any imperfections in the fabric to make sure that our strict tolerances are met 100% of the time. So have a look through, you can see. It's typical of the manufacturing process when they're sewing to always have a loose thread, have a misstitch here and there. So it's really important that if you have a look, every one of those details are picked up before they get to the customer. And then after this step, what we do is we take it to a special machine that actually blows the garments. So any loose threads that may be stuck in the fleece just get blown out, so that when you take that out of the box, it's exactly the way it should be every single time. We predominantly focus on blank apparel. That's where we've just found our most success. And blank apparel seems like the easiest, but it's actually quite the opposite, because when something's blank, you have nothing distracting you from all the imperfections, and especially for the type of clients we're selling to, screen printers, high-end retail, they check everything. So running the blanks has been a challenge, but a really interesting niche for us to funnel into to grow our business. A bit of a story time here. So there's a customer in Australia called Uncle Rico. They're also doing those type of funny graphic tees, and I've been following their stuff for a long time. They run their own production in Australia. They sell a couple 100,000 pieces a year, and this is an example of a new production that we have going out for them. So they've come to us and they said, we need a garment that prints really well with DTG. So we sourced out a really, really nice fabric for them with a flat surface and 100% cotton face. So you do have the fleece on the inner for the comfort, but then you've got that cotton face so that the DTG print is perfect every time. They run their own fit. Oh, cool. And then the most important part, so that it stays consistent with brand, is that we run their own woven labels. And it's really just about creating a garment that customers can really associate with quality and that's tied directly to your brand. That's what we do really, really well here at ThreadLab. So after quality control is the final step of ironing and bagging for shipping. So you see here, this is where the team just put that final touch so that from the moment a customer pulls a garment out of a carton, it's crisp and exactly how it should be. So you can get an idea of how that works down here. These are just industrial irons. Just make it really quick and easy for the staff to just pump these out and get it retail ready. All of this is ready for retail actually. This is going to Walmart in South America. This is the old school way of doing it. Everything moves in trolleys and buckets for each particular pattern. So again, the operators were focusing on one specific pattern, but it's just moving around manually with the trolleys. Last time I was here about 3 months ago, the last 2 lines weren't even here. So we're still growing to try to stretch our capacity as the business grows as well. So it's cool to see. This is where after everything's said and done, everything's stored and ready to be packed for containers to go out. So you see a lot of finished product down here. So over here is a really cool example of how different customers have different requirements. And often the biggest customers are the smartest and want to do things the most different. So this is an example of like a big mass market retail chain coming forward to us looking for a solution to pack their containers in the most efficient way possible. So what we did is we developed a point of sale that sits on its own, almost like a carton pallet, and we pre-populate all of those blanks into this point of sale system. So rather than packing up 500 cartons into a container, we just packed these pre-populated point of sale systems, stuck them up like you can see behind you, and fill up a container and get it out the way. And it's just a really good example of how some of the biggest brands or the biggest businesses think differently to create efficiency in their supply chain. Hey, Danny, do you want to explain what you're telling the team?
I told the team to be careful with all the detail, especially the detail that affect the sale. That's we cannot accept for any and this zero tolerance.
Yeah. So you saw in our main quality control stage, our internal team. This is an extra third-party team that we get involved to check again, just to make sure. It's an extra cost, sure, but it's an important part of the process, ensuring that, again, quality first, no excuses, nothing that's going to affect the sale of our own customer. And it's interesting, right? Because even with 20 plus years of manufacturing experience, we're still learning, we're still innovating, we're still improving. And I think that's really important. It's easy to become content when you've got success and things are growing, but that's exactly when you need to double down on detail to make sure that you don't lose control of the ship as it grows. When you find a manufacturer, I really urge you to find somebody that's going to be a true strategic partner in your journey, because there's just so many elements between the yarn, between the knitting, the dyeing, the cutting, the sewing, all that detail, all those hands that are involved in that process. If you don't have somebody that's completely over it, it's honestly easy to fuck up. Up until the point where you're at, 100 employees or $100 odd million turnover, you need to be over everything. You need to be checking everything. You need to be right in the trenches with your team. That sometimes means wearing multiple hats. It might be scrappy, it might not be fancy, but it's critical to getting the job done and growing, to 9 figures and beyond. And that's exactly what we've done. It's not the fanciest operation, but it works, and we're scaling quick. Something that I always like to do freaks the team out. So I'll get a knife and open up a random box and start combing through, because that's the real truth. So we're going to try that now. Just the details, you know what I mean? All of this needs to be clean. It doesn't matter what you do, the market customer gets it and they go, no, the fabric feels good, the cut's good, but if these details aren't met, none of it matters. Let's try it again. That's better. That's fine, it's good. When you look at tolerances, typically in manufacturing, there's a scale. Like your 2.5 is your Walmarts and your mass market retail. That's just let it fly. Then you have where a lot of brands sit, which is around 1.2, and that's like your Zara's and your Uniqlo's. That's sort of like an industry standard for fast fashion, but still in a retail quality sort of area space. Then you have your designer brands like your Gucci's, your Armani's that sit at like a 0.25. Where we try to sit on that scale is right in between designer and the Uniqlo, Zara quality of the 1.25. So we'll sit at around 0.75. So we only have a certain amount of capacity in our own facility. When we get stretched and pushed beyond that, we have other partners, and it's very common practice in China. When a factory's too busy, they'll farm out volume to other factories within their own network. So this is a partner of ours. We're going to go check it out and see if he's doing his job right.
Most of the workers, they afford to buy this apartment nowadays. Because they can get at least $1,000 monthly, right? And this one, probably 1 million RMB maximum. So they can afford with the mortgage.
It's interesting. People think that workers inside of a factory live a horrible life, but it's not the case.
Not the case, and also because most of the local workers, they are just maybe 10-20 minutes from the factory. So usually they have their old property. Right? Yeah. They can sell the old one and exchange the new one. It's easy for them.
Usually when we come here, we book a nice private room, especially when we've got clients coming to visit the factory. It's a really cool vibe, something you don't find in the West. This is a really good example of how welcoming and the beautiful part of the Chinese culture if you look around at all the tables, it's focused on bringing everyone together. You'll never see a square table in China. It's always round. And what's cool about it is you've always got these spinning tops. And it's a really beautiful way of dining because everyone comes together, you share food between one another. It's not one dish just for yourself. It's a communal experience where everyone comes together. It's really nice. Using the dishes, you're going to see some really interesting menu items here.
We have, this is
Beef, nice, yeah. Even just like ordering off the menu is so unique here, you know. You're walking through with the lady, she scans a barcode. It's just so strange how disconnected like the West is to how things are happening here, or rather how disconnected China is to the West. It's just everything runs in its own unique way. I love it. So we're here at our partner's facility. You can see how different this is, right? Every factory has its own way of operating, and we're considered on the more advanced side. You can see this facility is still doing it the old school way. But what's important is how we keep production consistent, because you can't have a situation where customers ordering from your one batch and then it's being done in another factory on the second, and the product's completely different. And the way we're able to manage that is by creating a very strict set of rules to follow. We nominate the vendor for the yarn. We nominate the same dye house. We follow the exact same procedures, doesn't matter where it's being cut or sewn, so that we can keep consistent quality across any facility we choose to farm out the cut and sew component to. That's a really important key, because you know when volume grows, it's unrealistic to have one facility control everything, and all your biggest brands in the world, like even the blank distributors like AS Color, like Gildan, they all have multiple facilities farming out the exact same style. So having those systems in place is a really important part to allow us to scale as we grow into different markets. Regardless of what production process you have, just really important to have those guidelines in place, essentially getting to the same final outcome. But it's just important that we are able to guide them the same way we ask our clients to guide us with the right tech packs. We have a production workbook that's like our Bible on what everybody that touches a ThreadLab garment needs to follow. And that's really critical, because that means you can bring that Bible anywhere in the world to any factory and get the same outcome. That's really, really important for us as a manufacturer. And you can see how it's all packed, and it's really important that we decorate our boxes in a way that makes it easy for our distributors to understand exactly what's in them. So the pick and pack process just becomes much more efficient. So we're usually led by our customer at the same time. So if a customer has a specific requirement on how that carton should be decorated or the dimensions, we can cater for that. So all of our pre-treating is going to happen in here. So it's just another add-on to the product, allowing us to really add value in that supply chain to our customer. To do the pre-treat domestically in the US or in Australia could add like $2 per garment. We'll do it at a fraction of the price, and it saves you all that headache in the production process. These are the pre-treat machines, so they're just essentially a machine that'll spray that liquid into the garment. And the process of pre-treat is it's a special solution that you spray onto the blank garment and then cure through an oven, and it allows the white ink to bond onto the surface of the fabric. Without it, you'll print on a garment and the ink will just seep straight through. It's shit, it's sticky, it stinks, it's a horrible thing to do onshore. So we're trying to take that burden away from our customers, and this is literally first steps. This only came a few minutes ago. So we have a few of our staff members already on the train down to set this up, so that within the next week, this is something that will be ready to get moving for our clients. So we had a problem in the first runs of ThreadLab when we were getting started. The neck tape that we use to bind the neck ribbing and the main torso of the garment was just a bit too narrow. And we tried to go narrow because it was a clean aesthetic, but it allowed a lot of room for error in the sewing process. So what we've done, and you can actually see it here literally in live time. So if you check that roll over there, so that right there, that's the neck tape. So all we needed to do is just make that an extra ½ an inch wider, and that gave the operator the room, a little bit of margin for error, which then meant a clean finish no matter what. And you can see it in the finished product. I can show you that. You can see that for yourself.
that neck stays extremely clean all the way through. So just, again, it's like you can just do little things to the construction of a garment that make a world of difference on the other end. And that's where, you know, having that tight eye and attention for detail, even though it wasn't a huge mistake on the first run, it was something that we picked up one in every maybe 100. We wanted to ensure that we created a solution to mitigate that in the future, and that's what we've done. So now we're going to run the box test. See how we go. Looks good. On first impression, looks good. Much better. Little detail, but it's not horrible. I'm really glad that I'm able to start this process in documenting this journey, because I wish that there was others out there that were doing the same thing. And I think a shout out to Daniel Daly, which is a big inspiration for me and a personal friend now, to really show people the raw, honest, and the vulnerable truth that goes into creating something great. Because it's really easy to do all this surface level bullshit and flex all the materialistics and paint a false idea of what success really is. But the sacrifice, the people, all the beautiful relationships, the genuine value, I think should be documented more, and hopefully we can achieve that, you know, by picking up the camera and showing the behind the scenes. So really excited for it. So that's a rundown of what goes down in China and I guess the inner workings of a factory. Thanks for watching the video, and if you had any questions, just feel free to hit me up in the comments or send me a DM, and I'll be happy to help wherever I can. Cheers.